When people met Ibrahim, they said the same thing. He's quiet, he's serious, he's trying. He was 32 and lived in a one-bedroom apartment behind a mechanic workshop in Ibadan. The walls were thin, the nights were loud, the future felt even louder. Every morning, Ibrahim woke up before the call of prayer, ironed the same two shirts, and left for work at a logistic company where he was neither promoted nor fired, just kept. He sent money home when he could. He avoided borrowing. He avoided trouble. What he didn't avoid was being stuck. No loan approvals, no travel opportunities, no next level. Not because he was careless, but because his name carried no weight. And in Nigeria, weight matters. He met Tunde by accident, a former secondary school classmate, flashy watch, easy laughter, the kind of man who spoke as if doors opened for him without effort. They talked, they laughed about the past, they complained about the present, and then Tunde said something small, something dangerous. You know, he said casually, some of us don't use our own names for everything. Ibrahim laughed at first. Then Tunde explained, it wasn't fraud, it wasn't stealing money, it was access, using another identity. Temporarily, to secure contracts, rent better apartments, apply for things that people like Ibrahim were never even allowed to try for. Just for a while, Tunde said, until you stand on your feet. Ibrahim said no, for 3 weeks. Then the landlord increased rent. Then his mother fell ill. Then his company announced layoffs. And suddenly, no felt like pride he couldn't afford. The first time he signed another man's name, his hand shook. The second time, they didn't. The apartment he moved into was brighter. The emails he received sounded respectful. People called him sir, without hesitation. Nothing illegal happened, but nothing felt clean either. He wasn't stealing a life, he was borrowing one. The problem with borrowed things is they don't belong to you when trouble comes. The first call came on a Tuesday night, a bank asking questions he couldn't answer. The second was worse, a woman calling him by a name that wasn't his, asking why he didn't come home. By the time Ibrahim understood the truth, it was too late. The identity he borrowed wasn't empty. It came back with debts, with relationships, with expectations. And when the real owner disappeared quietly, without drama, every eye turned to the man living his life. Ibrahim tried to step back, to return everything, but the system didn't care who he was, only who he appeared to be. His job vanished. His bank accounts froze. His name, his real name, meant nothing anymore. He had borrowed a life and lost his own. Ibrahim learned early that effort didn't always translate to movement. His father used to say, as long as your hands are clean, your future will be clean. But his father had died before the world became this tight. At 32, Ibrahim's life was neat but painfully small. One room, one bag, one phone with a cracked screen. Every day followed the same rhythm. Wake up early, leave early, return tired, sleep late. Not because he was chasing pleasure, but because stillness scared him. At work, younger men passed him by, not because they were smarter, because they were connected. He watched it happen quietly, the promotions, the trips, the sudden respect, all granted to men who spoke the right names in the right rooms. Ibrahim never complained. He just absorbed it, and absorption over time becomes pressure. Tunde didn't arrive like temptation, he arrived like relief. They met near a roadside bar, the kind where conversations drift easily because nobody expects anything serious. Tunde listened. That alone made Ibrahim soften. When the idea came, it wasn't framed as crime, it was framed as a strategy. System no fair, Tunde said calmly. So sometimes you bend with it. Another name, another record, another version of reality. Just paperwork, just presentation, just temporary. And that word, temporary, made it safe. Ibrahim went home that night, and stared at the ceiling for hours. He wasn't thinking about money, he was thinking about dignity, how tired he was of shrinking. The first form he signed wasn't dramatic, no trembling music, no sudden guilt, just a pen moving where it shouldn't, and nothing happened. The sky didn't fall. Instead, emails came faster, responses came warmer. People leaned in when he spoke. It was intoxicating. Not because of greed, but because of visibility. For the first time, the world saw him, even if it wasn't really him. Borrowed lives don't collapse all at once, they fray. A phone call here, a delay there, questions he didn't know how to answer. He began rehearsing lies, not dramatic ones, just small corrections. No, that must be an error. I think you have outdated information. I'll get back to you. At night, he dreamt of being called by the wrong name and answering anyway. That's when the fear started. Not fear of jail, fear of disappearing into someone else completely. The woman's voice on the phone was calm, too calm. She didn't accuse him, she asked questions that assumed intimacy. When are you coming back? Why are you avoiding this? Ibrahim hung up and sat on the floor for a long time. This wasn't just an identity, it was a life with gravity, a life that pulled others into its orbit. When the real owner of the identity vanished, no one searched deeply. Systems don't chase truth, they chase continuity. And Ibrahim was there, available, documented, convenient. So the consequences landed on him gently at first. Frozen accounts, silent emails, polite distance, then harder. His real name, his actual self, had no leverage. He had traded it away for access. In the end, Ibrahim wasn't arrested. That's what makes the story dangerous. He simply faded. No references, no trust, no clean slate. Back in a smaller room than before, he realized something devastating. He didn't lose the borrowed life. He lost the right to be believed. Some dangers don't shout, they whisper. They tell you to stop aside from yourself just for a moment. And then, by the time you want to return, your name has already been reassigned. There are prisons without bars, punishments without sentences, and mistakes that don't look like mistakes until it's too late. Tonight's story isn't about crime, it's about how easily man can disappear while still walking the street.